You call that a weapon? Looks more like a farming tool, scoffed Zalor, the Cheon weapons specialist, his mandibles clicking with amusement as he examined the human's firearm. Crude, slow. Does it even function properly? Laughter erupted from the surrounding alien troops. They hailed from every corner of the galaxy, proud representatives of the United Coalition of Species, each boasting what they considered to be the peak of military innovation. Their gear was advanced, their energy-based weapons marvels of efficiency and compact power. And yet, standing among them was a human, armed with what looked like a museum piece. Private James Callahan held his rifle with quiet confidence, unfazed by the mockery. He was Earth's delegate in this unprecedented joint military drill. The Coalition had invited humanity, perhaps as a symbolic gesture more than anything else. The ridicule had been inevitable, and Callahan had long grown accustomed to the scorn. It wasn't the first time human gear had been dismissed as outdated by more technologically advanced species. "Is this thing made of steel?" Zalor sneered, turning the rifle over in his slender claws. "You do realize that projectile weapons are ancient history, don't you? We've relied on energy-based systems for thousands of years." Callahan simply shrugged. "You don't have to like it," he said, unfazed. "It does the job." The aliens broke into another fit of laughter, an odd blend of howls, chirps, and clicking sounds echoing off the armory walls. Callahan remained composed, his face unreadable. To them, this was entertainment. Humans were still seen as primitive, rough-edged newcomers to the galactic stage. Maybe even a bit savage. "Enough," barked Commander Threx, his towering figure casting a long shadow under the stark lighting. His scaled skin glimmered like polished obsidian. The room fell silent instantly. "Private Calla," he said, voice sharp, "enlighten us. What exactly can your weapon do? I'm genuinely intrigued." Callahan glanced down at his rifle, then at the curious alien faces watching him. A faint smile played at the corners of his lips. "This is an M4 carbine," he began. "Fires a 5.56 by 45mm NATO round. Lightweight, dependable, can operate in semi-auto or 3-round bursts. Its effective range is about 500 meters, more or less." Zeller scoffed, mandibles twitching with amusement. "And how does it stack up against, say, our plasma rifles?" "Well," Callahan replied, choosing his words thoughtfully, "plasma weapons are undeniably powerful. They can melt through most standard armor with ease. But they've got drawbacks, high energy demands, overheating problems, and they rely on recoil dampeners to stay stable." Zellor waved a dismissive claw. "Excuses. Plasma is the future. Pure energy turned deadly. Why throw a chunk of metal when you could vaporize your target with a pulse of light?" Callahan met Zellor's gaze, his voice calm. "Because it works." Before Zeller could respond, Commander Threx intervened. "Let's settle this with a demonstration. Live test now. I want to see what the human weapon can actually do." He gestured toward a door that led to the firing range. "Private Callahan, the floor is yours." The aliens followed, many still chuckling. Some exchanged skeptical glances, others muttered in their native dialects. Callahan walked behind them at an even pace, his rifle slung over his shoulder. As they entered the range, he noted the expressions, mocking, dismissive, certain of his failure. In their eyes, this was already a lost cause. The firing range was enormous, lined with various targets, reinforced steel plates, energy shields, and holographic projections of enemy combatants. Scorch marks, melted surfaces, and impact craters scarred the walls, a testament to the destructive capabilities of Coalition weaponry. "All right, human," Zellor sneered from the sidelines, his compound eyes gleaming. "Let's see what that antique can actually do." Callahan nodded, stepping forward. He flicked off the safety, raised the rifle, and squeezed the trigger. A sharp, cracking report rang out. The recoil was firm but familiar, a comforting kick against his shoulder. The bullet zipped downrange and struck a metal target dead center. The impact was clean, a precise hole punched through the hardened alloy. The aliens stared, their various eyes widening in unison. Zellor's arrogant smirk began to fade. "All right," he admitted begrudgingly. "It can pierce metal. Surprising, for a projectile." "Try the shielded target," Threx ordered, voice flat. He wasn't mocking, just observant. Callahan shifted position and aimed at one of the glowing energy shields downrange. These were the pride of the Coalition's defense tech, able to deflect plasma blasts and even some explosive rounds. No one expected a conventional bullet to make a dent. Callahan fired again. Another sharp report echoed. The bullet soared through the air, passed through the energy shield with only a faint shimmer, and thudded into the metal plate behind it, leaving a visible dent. The range fell quiet. Commander Threx narrowed his eyes. Zelor took a step forward, visibly confused. "But how?" he muttered. Callahan lowered his rifle, calm and steady. "Simple," he said. "Physics. Shields are typically designed to block energy dispersion fields, such as plasma or particle beams. However, my rifle doesn't rely on energy. It operates through physical mechanics." Threx's gaze remained fixed on the target, his expression unreadable. Zelor, on the other hand, sputtered indignantly. "But that's just brute force. There's no subtlety in that." Callahan shrugged. "Maybe not, but it gets the job done. Sometimes that's all that matters." Threx nodded slowly, turning to address his troops. "Interesting. Very intriguing. It appears we've been neglecting some basic principles." The aliens exchanged uneasy looks. This was not how they had anticipated the demonstration to unfold. They had expected to mock the humans' so-called weapon and flaunt their advanced technology. Instead, they were realizing that simplicity could deliver devastating efficiency. Zelor, still unwilling to concede, crossed his arms defiantly. "Fine, it can penetrate shields, but can it keep up with our weapon's firing speed?" Callahan smirked, raising his rifle again. "Want to find out?" Threx signaled the technicians beside the range. "Prepare the automated targets," he commanded, his voice laced with anticipation. "Maximum speed, randomized sequences." The technicians nodded, tapping commands into their consoles. Targets appeared throughout the range, each shielded with energy barriers and moving unpredictably. This was a routine drill for Coalition soldiers designed to test their reflexes and precision with high-velocity plasma weaponry. Zelor crossed his arms, mandibles clicking as he eyed Callahan. "Your primitive rifle can't keep pace. Plasma fire can track and neutralize these targets in seconds." Callahan nodded in acknowledgement of the challenge. "Let's see what happens." He adjusted his rifle's sights with practiced skill, maintaining a calm posture and steady breathing. It wasn't arrogance. It was experience. "On my mark," Threx ordered. 3, 2, 1, go! The range erupted in a flurry of motion and flashing shields. Targets darted side to side, changed elevation, and occasionally vanished behind temporary obstacles. Zelor watched, expecting the human to falter. This drill demanded precise accuracy, rapid adjustments, and constant tracking, all areas where plasma rifles excel due to their instantaneous energy discharge. But then Callahan began firing. Each shot produced a sharp crack, a rapid rhythm echoing through the range as he squeezed the trigger repeatedly. His eyes locked onto the targets, his movements smooth and deliberate. Every time a target paused or shifted direction, he fired, and every shot caused a shield to flicker out, followed by a metallic clang as the bullet struck true. The alien soldiers stared, disbelief mounting with each impact. One by one, the targets fell, each hit clean and precise. Callahan made no extravagant moves. He kept his stance steady, his focus sharp. The rifle's relentless cadence filled the room with a steady pulse. "Impossible," Zelor blurted, mandibles flaring. "How can you match their speed?" "Practice." Callahan replied without turning, his tone casual, as if discussing the weather. "We train with moving targets all the time. You don't need fancy tech for that, just sharp reflexes and good aim." Zelor bristled, but his argument died. The results were undeniable. Callahan had hit nearly every target, including those considered the most challenging by the Coalition. A final shot rang out, and the last target collapsed, its shield flickering before falling to the ground. The room fell silent except for the faint hum of the automated range powering down. Threx stepped forward, his expression blending curiosity with something else. Respect, perhaps. "Your weapon performs admirably under combat conditions," he admitted, though the words sounded bitter. "But rate of fire isn't everything. Your rifle lacks the destructive power of our plasma systems. A single a plasma bolt can incinerate entire sections of a target." Callahan glanced at the commander, then at the smoldering targets scattered across the range. "True," he conceded. "Plasma is formidable, but it comes with drawbacks. High energy consumption, the need for cooling, and if you miss, you're wasting valuable power." Threx's eyes gleamed as he continued. Perhaps you'd be willing to test that difference in power, face a target your weapon cannot simply penetrate through brute force, something larger. The atmosphere shifted. Callahan understood what Threx was suggesting. This was no longer about proving a point. It was a challenge. A test to see if humanity's weapons could rival the Coalition's destructive capacity. Callahan nodded. All right, what do you have in mind? The commander signaled the technicians once more. Prepare the armored target. At his command, a section of the floor opened, and a massive block of reinforced metal rose into view. It was coated with multiple layers of defensive plating, engineered to withstand even the heaviest Coalition artillery. The alien soldiers exchanged knowing looks. This was the Coalition's ultimate test for weaponry, a dense, multi-layered construct designed to shrug off plasma blasts, ion cannons, and even powerful explosives. The rifle in Callahan's hands suddenly seemed insignificant by comparison. Let's see how your physics measure up against this, Zelor sneered, confident that this demonstration would finally expose the human weapon as a fraud. Callahan moved to the firing line, assessing the target carefully. His fingers reached for a small cylindrical device, which he attached to the rifle's muzzle, locking it firmly in place. Zelor tilted his head in confusion. What's that? Some kind of muzzle brake or suppressor? Callahan replied simply, and this. He produced a specialized magazine loaded with sleek pointed rounds. Armor-piercing ammunition, designed for targets like this. Zelor blinked, mandibles twitching uncertainly. Armor-piercing? Your tiny bullets won't. You don't need to understand, Callahan interrupted coldly, his tone sharp. Just watch. He inserted the magazine, chambered around, and took aim downrange. His body went still, and the world around him seemed to narrow as he focused solely on the target. The room grew tense. Every alien soldier leaned in, eyes fixed on the scene. Callahan squeezed the trigger. The rifle roared a deeper, more aggressive bark than before. The bullet sped forward, striking the armored block. For a moment, nothing happened. No flash, no explosion. Then, a faint, almost imperceptible crack spread across the target's surface. Zelor opened his mandibles to scoff, but his voice faltered when he noticed the crack widening and a chunk of the outer layer peeling away, revealing a deep gash in the metal. Gasps and clicking mandibles of disbelief echoed through the room. Small caliber, Callahan said, breaking the stunned silence. But with enough velocity and the right design, it can pierce almost anything. That's what kinetic weapons do. Threx stepped closer, eyes narrowing as he examined the impact site. You engineered a projectile to bypass conventional defenses, he muttered more to himself than anyone else. Focused impact, no energy dispersion. It's not about sheer power, Callahan explained as he ejected the spent magazine. It's about precision and adaptability. Sometimes the simplest solutions overcome the most complex defenses. Zelor's eyes flicked between the human and the damaged target, his confidence cracking like the armor itself. You planned this. Callahan met his gaze steadily. We didn't plan to impress. We planned to survive. The room fell into stunned silence. The echoes of the final shot still reverberated. Callahan remained at the firing line, expression neutral. The aliens were no longer mocking. They were processing what they had just witnessed. The massive armored target, once deemed impenetrable, now bore a gash that spoke volumes about the power of a seemingly primitive weapon. Commander Threx, always the observer, finally straightened and approached the target. His scaled fingers traced the path where the projectile had breached the metal. He turned slowly to face Callahan. Impressive. Your weapon isn't just simple, it's calculated. Zelor, still grappling with the unfolding events, shook his head in disbelief. But how? With all our technological advancements, how does such a basic weapon achieve this? His tone carried a mix of confusion and reluctant respect. Callahan stepped forward, feeling the weight of their scrutiny. Your technology is extraordinary, no doubt about it. Plasma rifles, ion cannons, energy shields, they're engineering marvels. But sometimes, all that complexity overlooks fundamental principles. He gestured to his rifle. Kinetic weapons rely on raw force. No energy signature, no overheating, just pure physics at its finest. We adapted to harsh conditions on our home world by learning how to make simple tools deliver maximum damage. Zor, he sneered, though a hint of doubt crept into his posture. So now you're suggesting we've been overcomplicating our weaponry? Not exactly, Callahan responded calmly. You've been tailoring them to fit your specific conditions. Plasma arms make sense when you have access to advanced energy sources and need to counter equally sophisticated defenses. But humans evolved on a planet that threw every possible challenge at us. Storms, predators, rival humans. We learned to craft weapons effective with whatever resources were available. Threx nodded slowly, his expression thoughtful. It's not about which is superior, he mused, but about maximizing what you have. Your weapon, despite its simplicity, is deadly because it's rooted in the fundamental laws of the physical universe. He paused, surveying the room and his soldiers. That's a lesson we've forgotten in our relentless pursuit of technological perfection. Zelor shifted his gaze between Threx and Callahan, torn between pride in his species' technological prowess and the undeniable reality of what he had just witnessed. You're saying there's still merit in raw power? Not brute force, Callahan corrected. Precision, simplicity, and adaptability. Your technology is impressive, but it's specialized. Our weapons aren't flashy, but they can adjust to nearly any circumstance. Sometimes, the traditional methods are best. They're flexible, easy to maintain, and can catch an enemy off guard. He slung his rifle over his shoulder, his posture relaxed but resolute. You mocked our primitive arms because they didn't fit your vision of modern warfare. But those very arms have kept us alive through wars, disasters, and the harshest conditions. Threx raised a hand to silence the murmurs of the alien soldiers. You've given us much to contemplate, Private Callahan, he said with the weight of command in his voice. Perhaps it's time we stop underestimating what we don't understand. He glanced at Zilor, who nodded hesitantly. The insectoid alien appeared conflicted, but bore a reluctant respect in his eyes. I agree, Zelor finally admitted. We've been too focused on refining our own techniques, neglecting other combat styles. Your demonstration has broadened our perspective. Turning to Threx with a hint of bitterness, he added, we must incorporate a wider variety of weaponry into our training. Threx nodded again, his gaze returning to Callahan. Humanity has proven to be more formidable than we anticipated, Private. Your seemingly simple weapons have a versatility we've overlooked. Versatility often equates to survival. He stepped forward, extending a hand to Callahan. You've taught us humility today, and for that, I thank you. Callahan grasped Threx's hand firmly, feeling a surge of pride, not for himself, but for what his species had accomplished. We're just here to do our part, Commander. There's much we can learn from you as well. Threx addressed the room with a booming voice. Let this be a lesson to us all. We are not as invincible as we believe. Our technology, while formidable, is not the sole path to victory. Sometimes the answer lies in simplicity, in tried and true methods that have stood the test of time. His eyes scanned his troops before dismissing them. The alien soldiers began to disperse, many casting glances back at Callahan with newfound respect. Zelor lingered, eyeing the rifle one last time before nodding to Callahan. Perhaps we underestimated you humans. There's more to your kind than we thought. Callahan smirked, slinging his rifle back over his shoulder. That's the thing about us. We're full of surprises. As he walked away from the range, Callahan felt a quiet satisfaction. The Coalition had learned a vital lesson, not just about human weaponry, but about the very nature of conflict. It wasn't always about having the flashiest gadgets or the most advanced systems. Sometimes it was about mastering the fundamentals, adapting to the situation, and using every tool to its fullest potential. Humanity's basic arms had sent a message that echoed through the ranks of the aliens. There is strength in simplicity. Exiting the armory, he heard whispers from alien soldiers still discussing the demonstration. They had witnessed a truth long forgotten, and though the Coalition's weapons would continue to evolve, they now carried a reminder. Some of the most effective tools have endured for centuries. As the door closed behind him, Callahan allowed himself a small, knowing smile. It wasn't just the rifle that had made a point, it was humanity itself. Primitive? Maybe. Effective? Absolutely.